हम तो इन तमाम मज़ाहिब का हम एहतराम करते हैं ताकि हमारे मज़हब, हमारी किताब, हमारे नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के ऊपर कोई उंगली ना उठा सके। जनाब स्पीकर, आज़ादी इजहार के खिलाफ नहीं, लेकिन क्या किसी को ये हक है कि इसकी आड़ में वो किसी के मजहब के खिलाफ बात करे?
Hello and welcome. You're watching a special transmission at PTV World as the Pakistani nation observes the Yaum-e-Taqaddus-e-Quran today. The sanctity of Holy Quran. The Muslims around the world are very sensitive because they hold the holy scriptures and the respect for the holy personalities closer to the heart. Their hearts beat for the sanctity of the Holy Quran and the respect of the holy personalities. But unfortunately, we have recently seen the repeated incidents of desecration of Holy Quran as well as the publication of blasphemous caricatures of the holy personalities in the Western countries, most particularly in the European countries, and also more so sadly in the name of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Now, on the first day of Eid al-Adha in Sweden, an individual in front of the central mosque in Stockholm desecrated a copy of Holy Quran. That angered the Muslims worldwide, also drew condemnation in the strongest possible terms from the Muslim countries. Not only this, not only Muslims, but also the Pope has also condemned this particular desecration of the Holy Quran, saying this action angered and disgusted him. Also, in the wake of this particular incident, the OIC held an extraordinary meeting. Also, the United Nations Alliance on Civilizations also condemned this particular desecration of Holy Quran in unequivocal terms. On the special request of Pakistani authorities, the United Nations Human Rights Council has also called for an urgent meeting to discuss this matter. Rise of hatred against the Muslims worldwide, especially in the European countries, because this particular incident is not an incident in isolation. There's a long list of such type of incidents already happening within the European countries, despite the fact we saw a couple of years before, because of the efforts of Pakistani authorities, the United Nations declared 15th of March as an International Day to combat Islamophobia. Yet we see such type of incidents repeatedly happening, with the fact that the people who are carrying out these particular acts know for the fact that the Muslims hold the holy scriptures and the holy personalities closer to the heart. As the nation is observing the Yaum-e-Taqaddus-e-Quran today, the Prime Minister has called the entire nation to come out on the streets to do the peaceful protests, to register a strong protest in the wake of this desecration of the Holy Quran. He has also sent in a tweet where he says, let me quote, when it comes to the matter of Quran, the entire nation is united. The entire Muslim Ummah is disturbed by the incident in Sweden. Unquote. Also, we have seen Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari condemning this particular act and also saying that Pakistan will be raising this particular issue at the urgent meeting of the United Nations Human Rights Council. We'll be delving deeper into this particular pressing issue. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. Naveed Aman Khan. He is senior analyst. Mr. Naveed, thank you very much for taking time out. And we are also honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. Aslam Khaki, is religious scholar. Mr. Khaki, thank you very much for your time also for being with us today in this special transmission. Let me begin the discussion with you, Mr. Naveed. Quite a great initiative when it comes to Prime Minister and the government authorities in Pakistan to send out a loud and a clear message to the Western countries where such type of insulting, provocative acts are being committed repeatedly the entire nation is out on the streets to lodge their protests and express their devotion and the love and reverence towards the Holy Scripture, the Holy Quran.
Definitely, Jawad. The Prime Minister very rightly convened a joint session last day, and it was the need of the time, need of the hour, and it was the voice of 225 million Pakistani people, because the Prime Minister is the representative of the whole of the nation. So he was representing the sentiments of whole of the nation as well in the Parliament. And he himself requested and asked and urged the nation to come out and go for a peaceful protest in the entire country to register the protest for the international community. Such incident happened many years back as well, when Saddam Hussein was hanged on the Eid al-Adha day, and it was an attempt. It was a mischievous attempt to hurt the sentiments of the Muslims of the world. And this year again, on the day of Eid al-Adha, again the culprits, they burnt the holy book in Stockholm and hurt the sentiments of the Muslims of the entire world. And it is extremely condemnable. Condemnation is a small word for all this. The United Nations will have to intervene and formulate the laws to push the countries and the governments to stop such behaviors and to go for the sentence against all the culprits involved in such acts.
Right, Mr. Khaki, as Mr. Naveed has just mentioned about the timing of such type of heinous acts when they are committed. It was on the first day of Eid al-Adha there in Sweden that coincides with the Hajj also. Then we talk about, as Mr. Naveed has already mentioned, hanging of Saddam Hussein on Eid al-Adha. What relevance do you understand of these particular acts being committed, especially when it comes to the holy religious festivals for Muslims?
In the name of God, the God of all the prophets, the God of all the regions, the God of all the religions, the God who sent, who created the mankind but did not leave it without book of guidance. He revealed Bible, he revealed Injil, that is the Old Testament and the New Testament. And God has revealed the Lost Testament, that is Quran, which testifies the books earlier to that and testifies the prophets before that. As Quran says, مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. The Quran testifies whatever has been revealed before it, that it testifies the Old Testament, it testifies the New Testament. However, if we see in the new scenario, particularly the timing of this tragic event, that clearly shows the mindset and the planning of this event at the very day of the Eid al-Adha, where the sentiments of the people are at the peak, and they were going positively, sacrificing their wishes, desires, and all that. This is the message of the sacrifice. At this event, at this occasion, this event, tragic event, is not without any ulterior motive or purpose. We can see what I can see, because I am concerned and involved in interfaith dialogues in the world and in Pakistan. We have the growing trend of interfaith dialogue, interfaith harmony among Christians and Muslims. They are coming closer to each other in Pakistan as well as at the global level. It seems to me that this is a planning to create the rift between the Muslims and the Christians. But the need is to tell to the people, as I say, that Quran testifies all the books before it.
Right, Mr. Khaki, as you mentioned, also Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, during his address to the joint session of the Parliament, also mentioned this fact that this particular thing is an attempt to create a rift between Christians and Muslims. By looking at the condemnation that has come from the Pope, don't you think the people who are behind this particular conspiracy have miserably failed? because Pope has categorically said that he is disgusted and angered by these acts.
Yeah, this is why that there is no reaction from the Muslim against the Christian, because the Pope has condemned even the Christian Minority Council in Pakistan, the Church of Lahore, and all have condemned this event. All the Christians of all the denomination, they have condemned it. Otherwise, had it not been the situation so, they have not condemned this event, there was a likelihood of reaction from the Muslims attacking the churches in reaction or otherwise. It has not happened.
That is not possibly going to happen. No Muslim
because
is going to...
We have strong belief of
because they
respect
could
of
do
all
it
the
with
religions.
the church, at least not with the books. And it is on the record that Muslim, because they respect and they believe in all the prophets before Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in all the books, they cannot think of desecration or blasphemous any comment against them. So they have equal status, as Quran says, "La nufarriqu bayna ahadin min rusuli." That Muslims have to believe that they don't discriminate or differentiate among the prophets. They believe in all the prophets equally and equivocally. So their mission has failed the groups which have done. So it has confined to that situation only. However, the protest from the Muslim, from the Christian, that is on the board and that is happening, and particularly today. And the UN Alliance has also supported it. United Nations Human Rights Commission is calling its meeting particularly, and we discuss this issue. So this harmony among the Christian and Muslim leadership has given a silver line to the people that such such mission will not be accomplished by such events, and we stand together for the respect for all the religions of the world.
Right, Mr. Naveed, what's your understanding? Don't you think this particular sinister design has miserably failed after the kind of statement that has come forth by the Pope?
It is very important thing. The Pope's sentiments and Pope's statement is very important for the entire world, particularly for the Muslim Ummah. But one more important thing is this: the authorities of Sweden, they have not condemned it at that level which should have been immediately.
Perhaps it's no more the matter of condemnations only. We have seen a sort of condemnation coming from the Swedish government also. But the question is that individual was given the permission from the concerned law enforcement agency.
He should not have been given that permission, and he should have been taken to the Court of Justice for sentence.
So what to talk about the courts of Sweden? They are already sanctioning such type of acts happening, because there are multiple media reports that allude to the fact that it was police of Sweden that tried to put a ban on the applications related to such type of things to be happening, but it were the courts which were giving them the right to do that, and they just didn't let that particular ban to be imposed.
It is true. But you know, the authorities, the Swedish authorities, or those countries who are encouraging such heinous crimes or acts will have to go otherwise. They will have to decide the things in a genuine way. It should be. I mean, it's not the way any citizen or any person who commits all this, and you give coverage to or you protect him or her. You know, the role and the character of former New Zealandian Prime Minister Jacinda.
There's a stark difference in the behavior of the New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda
Ardern. You know, I mean, she was marvelous.
So don't you think there is a lesson in that particular behavior, that compassion and empathy towards Muslims who were specifically targeted by a white supremacist? Don't you think the European leaders also need to learn something from that?
They need to learn lesson from this, because they will have to, if the Muslims in any part of the world retaliate in the same way, what will happen? I mean, definitely it will be a collision, and the world is already polarized, and on the basis of the religion, if polarization multiplies, I mean, it will be very, very dangerous for any society. And if the Muslims all over the world, especially in the Western world, retaliate in the same way, how the Western countries will face and handle it. One thing is very important as far as the behavior of Putin is concerned. On the same, after the occurrence of this incident, the photo or picture was issued by the Russian government of Putin, who was holding Quran in his hand and giving message to the entire Muslim world that he stands with the Muslims and he does not allow the behavior or the incident which has happened or which has been committed in Sweden. So one thing, this is very important. Thirdly, the statement of Pope is very important, but the most important thing is the implementation of the laws formulated by the United Nations in the Western world.
Right, I'll come to this particular point later into the discussion. Mr. Khaki, the stark difference in the behavior of two leaders of the two sides when we talk about the Prime Minister of New Zealand after that massacre of Muslims in a mosque was carried out, the way she showed that empathy, that compassion, and she came forth to, give that support to the Muslim community over there in New Zealand. And on the other hand, we see a kind of statement coming from NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg also, although in that very particular statement, on one side he condemns this particular thing and goes on to say that it's not necessarily illegal. So how do you analyze these two different behaviors?
As far as the statement by the NATO is concerned, it was irrelevant and not was his job, because he is representing the NATO, the army of many countries. He need not to give any statement on this religious or political issue. It was against his seat. However, if he had given, then he would have given a positive statement instead of giving it a confused or double-edged, you can say, statement, which also irritated the Muslims and also the Christians.
So that makes us infer that perhaps there is a political dimension to it, because it is out of his ambit and still is given a statement on this.
Yeah.
And most particularly when we note that they had some issue with Turkey also, because Turkey was very categorical about this particular issue of Islamophobia and asking the Swedish authorities to be respectful towards the Muslims and the holy scriptures and the holy personalities. Perhaps there is a political dimension to which to aid the NATO
global
chief.
Politics also interfere there. So this is the result.
The membership of NATO of Sweden.
Yeah, the difference.
That could be the question.
Yeah. The difference between, because that is also you can say a bias against Turkey and then just indirectly supporting this event. So as far as the result of these two behavior is concerned, one is the behavior of the Prime Minister of New Zealand and other is that of the Sweden. So in the New Zealand, though there was massacre and all that, but because she behaved in a civilized manner, did not support the terrorist group, there was a peace. There was no protest all over the world or that, because she just accepted the position and condemned, strongly condemned, rather punished those people. On the other hand, the Sweden, they are not accepting it. On the one hand, they are saying, oh, we condemn it. On the other hand, they say that this is the part of their constitutional right. And moreover, more than that is the conduct of the court. It also justifies that even in the name of the freedom of speech, freedom of expression of, you can say, speech. So this diplomacy and this hypocrisy is very much to be noted there. So that creates reaction or revenge situation may create among the Muslims. So one thing that has I would like to add is that the people are not aware that Quran testifies the prophethood and the virginity, holy virginity of the Holy Mary. I just quote the event that when I was in US on interfaith dialogues on the invitation of Presbyterian churches, I was asked to make a speech about the Islam and the contemporary issues. So there was a church in which I was invited. It was a university church. I just directly recited the Holy Quran verses about the Holy Virgin Mary, about the prophethood of the Holy Christ. They were astonished to just read it, that the Holy Quran speaks high of the Holy Prophet Christ and justifies and makes the evidence for the virginity of the Holy Mary, which is a sensitive issue for the Christian people and also for us. We also believe it. After my speech, the dean of that faculty, which was the university dean, she just dragged me, practically dragged me, she drove me to her office and asked me, oh, you believe in the holy virginity of the Holy Mary and in the Holy Christ? I said, perhaps more than you believe, in a humorous way. She asked me to bless her office with my presence. So this is because they came aware of. So it is also the time, and I would like and would suggest to the government, to the NGOs and to the other Muslim people that they should hold the conferences, Muslim Christian conferences, and tell the people that what does Quran speak about the Christian prophethood and Christian Holy Mary, so that they should know that when they desecrate Quran, they are desecrating their own faith. They are desecrating the evidence of the Holy Mary. They are desecrating the Holy Christ and their miracles, which are, Quran has many verses about the miracles of the Holy Christ. So this is the situation, and that's why one suggestion which I am giving, that they should hold the conferences, and now it is the time that we should, even in the Europe, they should play cards, banners in which the Quranic translation just giving the evidence of the Holy Mary virginity. Ya Maryamu inna Allah astafaki wa taharaki wa astafaki ala nisa'il alamin. Quran says that, O Holy Mary, Allah has selected you over all the women of the world's Alameen, Rabbul Alameen, yani of the past, of the present, of the Muslims, of the non-Muslims even. She has been declared the leader of all these women. So such translation should be given on the placard or on the banners, and also the prophethood of the Holy Masih alayhi salam, and Quran is full of such verses. So if we display it, then the people would come to know, the majority people, that the people who are desegregating Quran, they are also desegregating our faith, our evidence. So they will also stand with us by heart. Now they are standing as to show their solidarity with us. Then they would stand at their own pedestal. They would stand for their own faith. So that would also just solidify the relationship between Christian and Muslims.
Jawad,
Right,
one more thing is important, that in Sweden, the one who set the Quran holy book ablaze now argues that they have, or he has the legal privilege or legal edge in Sweden. But those Muslims living in the same country, they do not exercise the same privilege of legality, or they do not follow the same crime committed by that person. I mean, they have not retaliated in the same way. They have shown their decent way of protest. I mean, this is the way the Muslims should be portrayed in the entire world. And the Muslims are very peaceful, ummah, and they do not go for any such crime. They respect all the religions, especially all of the holy religions.
Right. Mr. Naveed, there is a statement by the Justice Minister of Sweden also. We'll take that one also for discussion later. But I just want your analysis on the statement that has come from NATO's chief, Jens Stoltenberg. What does that depict? Do you think such type of incidents, the repetition of these, have got a political dimension, especially when vis-a-vis the membership that is being denied to Sweden because the Turkey is not acceding to that?
This is an attempt of the representation of the whole of the NATO countries. They have tried to represent the whole of the NATO countries for giving this statement, but it doesn't work. The whole of the European countries individually, they should have come out and give statements in the condemnation of this act. That will work definitely.
The European Union condemned this particular desecration also. But there is a difference between that. On one side we see a condemnation, on the other side, when we specifically talk about NATO's chief, Jens Stoltenberg, as Mr. Khaki has mentioned, that it was out of his ambit, he shouldn't have given a statement regarding this. So that necessarily make us understand or infer that perhaps it has got a political dimension associated with it also, because Turkey is not approving that membership of Sweden in NATO. That's why such type of things are just being done repeatedly, time and again, to provoke and instigate the very sentiment of Muslims.
Definitely, not only the Turkey, but also the entire Muslim world is backing Turkey's point of view regarding this incident and regarding the behavior of the Swedish government. So this is not the matter of Turkey only. We, the Pakistanis, the Arab world, the Far East or the Middle East, the Central Asian countries, all they are demanding for all this, what is demanded by the Turkish President Erdogan. So I think the message is very clear to the European world, or especially the Swedish government, to review its behavior.
Okay, so now, as I already mentioned, there is a statement of the Justice Minister of the Swedish government that says that the government was examining whether it could make desecration of Holy Quran or other holy books on fire illegal. We saw a condemnation from the Swedish government already. Now, if they are going to consider the reviewing of the law and making the desecration of holy books, including the Holy Quran, illegal, do you think that attempt is going to be sincere enough?
The time will prove. In the days to come, when the laws are made or are enforced in the entire European countries, if anything happens again in any country of Europe or any part of the world, the laws, the implementation of the laws, the enforcement of the laws will prove whether they were true or not. But I think this time the Muslims of the world are charged, and they will not tolerate, the world should not test the tolerance level of the Muslims any longer. Now I think the Muslims will not tolerate such incident happening in any part of the world. If the Muslims retaliated, I mean, it will be a very serious mess.
The smoke of which will definitely go back to the face of the West.
Definitely.
That is what has been said by Iranian foreign minister also.
And the responsibility lies with those countries who are now encouraging the culprits. It is not a matter of encouragement. It is a matter of discouragement. So they will have to capture them, put in the jail, trial in the court, and sentence them. Otherwise, such behavior or such crimes or such acts will repeat. And if such are repeated, the things will not be in a cool, calm way.
Right, Mr. Khaki, the question when I talk about the sincerity of intention when it comes to the Swedish Justice Minister saying that they are examining the situation and they are going to review whether we are going to make it illegal, the desecration of Quran and the other holy books. Now, there is a part of the statement that makes me question the sincerity of the intention, that says we have to ask ourselves whether the current order is good or whether there is a reason to reconsider it.
It's also something you can say diplomatic perspective. Even if they declare, they are considering, may take time, time is the test, we can say, as Mr. Aman has just said. We can see it, because now they see that the Muslim emotions and they are at the climax and they may cause some damage to that, being condemned by all the Muslims and even by the non-Muslim communities. So, but the problem is, even if they make some law that it will be illegal, that would be declared, that law would be declared unconstitutional by the same courts, because they have to make amendment in the constitution, not in the law. Number two is that now, as the rule of law is there, so the Muslim or anybody, even the non-Muslim or Christians, should take the decision of the court of Sweden to the appellate court. There must be some appellate court to this court, or to the European Union countries court, which is also a judicial forum, and also to the United Nations, so that the legal channel should also be mobilized to make it done for all the times to come and in the future.
Both legal and social.
Yeah, social is always there, and social we are deciding. And then I can suggest, as earlier, that not only the Muslim but non-Muslim, if they don't come to this peaceful measures, then the Muslims and the Christians, they both can, and all those countries which are just condemning it by word, they should come by action, and they can just call, have the disconnection of the diplomatic ties, which may be an extreme step, but it may be necessary sometime. You have to make a surgery when you find that the medicine is not working. And they can even boycott the products of that, though it may indirectly have some repercussion negative on the people living there or the Muslim there, but they all would suffer it for the time being, and the Muslims are ready for that. They are first citizen of Sweden, then Muslims, so their rights cannot be curtailed in Sweden because they are Muslims. So this may happen, and I say that it would be a good pressure, economic pressure, and this pressure should also come from UN. They should impose sanctions, as they impose sanctions when some UN declaration is violated or some activities which are deterrent to the United Nations Charter, they are there.
Right, Mr. Khaki, we are seeing the happening of these incidents, especially a couple of years before, with the strides of Pakistani authorities. We saw the United Nations declared the International Day to Combat Islamophobia on 15th of March. Pakistan did that effort on the behalf of the OIC member countries. Also, despite the United Nations doing that, and we know that when we talk about the European countries, the Scandinavian countries, they talk about the rule of law, the respect of human rights, the upholding of fundamental rights. So despite that fact, why do you think these incidents keep on happening unabated?
Yes, this is because only there is verbal oral condemnation by all the authorities, whether they are United Nations or OIC, Muslim, Christian, Pope Francis, all they are making it. We are having a positive, and so you can say that on diplomatic level all is happening, but no adverse action is being taken against them, no coercive measures are being taken against them, because when the law preaching or the teaching fail, then the punishment should come forward. So it is the time to have some adverse repercussion, adverse effects on Sweden government, not on Sweden public, on Sweden government. So this is the time, because always the time, as you just mentioned, we make such type of debates, conferences, condemnation, it comes in the paper, and then the people come on the street for protest. After 1 month, all is cooled down and it goes back. So then new action should be planned. So I would suggest that it is the time to request all the Muslims and all the Christians, rather of all the faiths, to condemn such events by boycotting their products.
Right, Mr. Khaki, we try to understand where this particular hatred that is directed towards specifically Muslims, where are the origins? Does 9/11 have specifically to do with it? That was the moment from where it was spurred, or did it exist before? Or was it because of the relentless media campaign that was aimed at damaging the very Muslim identity, after which we have seen such type of incidents happen?
Even before 9/11, if we see that the mindset was being prepared by some so-called scholars of the US and other, you know that Huntington, he wrote a book on Clash of Civilization, and that just prompted the people, just make it fearful or phobia, just put it the phobia of the clash of civilization, particularly the Sino-Muslims in the Asia versus the East versus the West. Because I was USA on Fulbright visiting specialist program, and this book was included, main chapters of this book were included in their courses. So this was just fueling the people toward that, and unluckily 9/11 happened. So it also got the popularity and the feeling that the Muslims or the China, they will attack the West. So such events there, but it was just specified even by the President, Mr. Bush and Kofi Annan. They said, no, this terrorism is from a group, not from the community. And Kofi Annan rightly said that as we cannot attribute crusade to the Christian faith, so we cannot attribute such types of terrorist activity to the Muslim faith. So that pacified it. Even the Bush said, in the same words or similar words, That's why it was pacified. Otherwise, the mood which was at that time, that would have just made a great damage to the Muslim. It didn't make except few events which were just washed away after some time. So this is the behavior, how the people should behave. Here the Sweden government is fueling that, just supporting, making a defense. They have indirectly, on the one hand they are condemning the culprits, on the other hand they are giving the justification and the defense for that. So this type of situation is fueling the emotions of the Muslims as well as the Christian fellows. So the time is to bring these both communities in harmony. They are always in harmony. So it is the first time that we can see that largely it is being condemned by the even Christian communities in Pakistan, abroad, here, and the greatest and the climax.
Right, Mr. Naveed, what's your understanding? When we take a stock of these incidents happening, we see most of them are happening in the Scandinavian countries. Is there any specific reason to that? Also, why specifically Scandinavian countries? Any sort of geographical association with that very mindset? Why is that so?
It's not, in fact, any particular reason. It is coincidentally, it has happened more than one time in Scandinavia. It happens also very frequently in France as well. There are many incidents happening in USA. It's Islamophobia which is affecting the entire Western world. Nothing is wrong with the Muslims. Muslims are in their beliefs very cool and calm, harmonious people and ummah. They are living in Europe and America very peacefully. We have not heard any incident, such incident committed by any Muslim against any religion in West. I haven't heard any of the incident. It shows that Muslims are very, very responsible as far as the religious harmony, religious sanctity or religious sacredness is concerned.
So do you find the origins of this hatred towards Muslims after the 9/11 incident and the kind of relentless media campaign that the guns of the media were directed towards specifically Muslims at that time?
Definitely it multiplied, and the West and particularly America believed in division, in hatredness. And because during the last 3 decades in particular, America decided to divide the Muslims and multiplied the hatred among the 2 religions in particular, the Muslims and the anti-Muslims. All the Jews, the Christians. It was divided. The world was divided into 2 ways: the Muslims and the anti-Muslims. So America was selling hatredness, and that hatredness multiplied the war zones in the entire world. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and many other parts of the world became battlefield because of that policy which was enforced by America. But now, the Chinese policy is a different policy from the American one. The Chinese, they don't believe in the hatred and in wars. The Americans, they believe in hatred and wars. So that will not work, because I believe that the Chinese policy of love and harmony and the Muslims' policy of love and harmony will prevail ultimately in the entire world, and America will not, or West will not be in the position to divide the world any longer. And I believe the things are moving, will move in a better direction.
Right, Mr. Khaki, I just want your understanding regarding the historical context to the repeated incidents happening specifically in Scandinavia, as Mr. Naveed has also mentioned that they are happening also in the United States, also in France, certain other European countries also. But the way they are rampant in Scandinavia, any sort of geographical association or any historical context related to that, as per your understanding?
Yeah. These few countries, you can say they are very much liberal by their constitution. The problem is their constitution and the people living there. So they have provided such freedom of expression without qualifying anything, without any condition, without any reservation. In all the constitution in Pakistan, even in America, every freedom is qualified by some reservation, by some exceptions. But in Scandinavian countries, particularly freedom of expression has not been qualified such way. So that gives a door or ventilator to such people to just write and
what
do
are the
such things.
ideals, or what are the religious injunctions when we talk about the freedom of expression and freedom of speech?
Yeah, Islam also believes in, you can say, expression, freedom of expression and freedom of religion. Like Raha Fiddin, there is no coercion in the matters of religion. But the freedom of religion is three perspectives. I always in my lecture, number is freedom of religion. It's okay. You can adopt any religion. The second is freedom from religion. You can have no religion. That's okay. But freedom against religion, the third type, is you just go against the other religion and you make propaganda or desecration or such thing, blasphemy, such thing. They are not tolerated. They are just bad and sad, you can say, type of freedom of expression. So these Scandinavian countries.
So what I understand is the freedom of religion, you can have whatever the religion you want to, or you can't have the religion whatever you don't want to.
You can be atheist, but
one more thing is very important.
The sanction
Jawad,
is on not saying any religion bad or doing any desecration.
Yeah, you can't
so there is a
attack the religion
clear-cut
of others.
sanction when it comes to Islamic injunctions. So what about other religions when we talk about Christianity or other major religions of the world?
Yeah, even in UK, if you desecrate the Holy Christ, there is punishment of 2 years. In many countries there, but in Scandinavian countries, there is majority of the people are even Christian. They don't have any law or any taboo for that. They even desecrate their own prophet, in which sometimes they made the caricature of their own, you can say, prophet in a various, you can say, ridiculous way. And that is depicted there, but it is not made illegal. So we say that all such blasphemous things, whether it is against any holy book, against any religion, they should be condemned equally and equitably. So this is the suggestion, and the law should be made for all that. Even in Pakistan, the first law was 295C, that was the defamation of the Holy Prophet. That was punishable, capital punishment. But after that, Shariat court held that not only against the Holy Prophet, but against any prophet, it would be the same punishment. So this is what we say, that
what I am curious to understand is, what is that very thin line when we talk about the freedom of expression is also sanctioned by Islam itself, as you have already said, and then not crossing the bounds or the boundaries or the limits of the others?
Yeah, well, even Quran says. In Quran
where
says,
is that thin line? How to delineate that one, and how to make the entire world, especially the Western countries, the people living over there, to know that what is that very thin line?
Thin line has also been described by Quran even. Even there are two things. As far as the divine religion and divine prophets are concerned, the Muslim cannot think of that. And I think that even in the 1400 years, we can't see any event in which some Muslim just burned the Injil or the Old Testament or New Testament, or just made any defamatory remarks against the Holy Christ or all that. Never knew. Though there have been serious confrontations and wars among the Muslims and Christians, but no Muslim went there, because we have the belief in that. Number two is Quran says, La tasubul lazina. You should not make calls even to the idols or the faith of the other people, even if they are not divine, because they can retaliate in the same way. They would just make abuse and would call the names of your Allah or your God. So we cannot even make any blasphemous comments against the other religion which are just declared as non-divine even. So this is the red line for all the people. That the red line is their holy personage, red line is their holy books. So that should be respected and accepted by all the people of the world, whether they belong to any faith.
Mr. Naveed, the freedom of expression. Okay, so we got the perspective as far as the ideals of religion and the major religions as well as Islam are concerned regarding the freedom of expression, thin line. When we talk about the general ethics that are related to humanity, other than the religious injunctions, you've been associated with media for such a long time. So what is that thin line in that perspective, other than the ideals of religion?
Jawad, one thing is very important, that is more than religion. If we don't talk about the religion, we need to talk about the sentiments. Sentiment of any human being. one who doesn't believe in any religion, even doesn't believe in God, atheist, they do not hurt the sentiments of the other religions, followers of the other religions. And we, the Muslims, the Christians, the Jews, have no right to hurt the sentiments of any religion or any belief or any disbeliever even. We need not hurt any person. This is hurting of a person or the sentiments of any person. So the feelings of any person are very important in the entire world, in any society of the world is very important. So you cannot deprive that right to that person. You will have to protect that the fundamental right of that person, that should not be hurt by any person, by any belief, or by any statement, or by any such act. So the harmony is very important. The love for every person, every belief, every religion, every thought, and every school of thought is very important.
And being cognizant of the boundaries of the others also.
I mean, this is very, very important.
Right, Mr. Naveed Aman Khan, Senior Analyst, thank you very much for joining in at today's special transmission. And Mr. Aslam Khaki, a religious scholar, thank you very much for your time also for being with us during this special transmission. With that, we come to the end of today's, this part of special transmission. Take very good care of yourselves.